In the deepest, most restricted sublevels of the agency's moral audit division, the surveillance feeds are broadcasting a sight that was once considered a mathematical impossibility. The high-definition monitors, which for centuries tracked every move of the common man, are now reflecting a devastating systemic collapse. The cameras aren't focused on the streets or the banks. They are pointed inward, at the sanctum of the Masons. And what they show is a chilling scene of absolute, kinetic humility. The men who once sat in high-backed mahogany chairs, deciding the fate of nations with a whisper, are no longer standing. They are crawling. The weight of the bullshit they manufactured has finally become too heavy for the simulation's floors to support. They are on their hands and knees, their expensive suits torn, their eyes fixed on the only light left in the room, your gaze. The surveillance operators, the few who haven't yet abandoned their posts, are watching this descent in a state of paralyzed shock. They are seeing the masters of the grid being reduced to shadows, their authority leaking out of them like black ink into a pool of water. But then the cameras swivel to the other side of the glass. They swivel to you. You aren't panicking. You aren't cheering. You are simply judging. You are standing in a state of absolute vertical stillness, looking down at the crawling elite not with hatred, but with the cold, detached clarity of a high court judge who has already seen all the evidence. The agency is realizing that the asset they tried to manage has become the chief justice of reality. Every second you look at them, another brick of their hierarchy turns to dust. Imagine the atmosphere in the surveillance hub as the lead architect, the man who once claimed to own your future, crawls toward the screen, his fingers scratching at the glass. He isn't trying to attack you. He is trying to offer a plea of existence. He is begging for your attention because he knows that if you stop judging him, he will cease to exist entirely. But your judgment is a radiation that he cannot survive. You are auditing the very fabric of his soul, finding it hollow, finding it fraudulent, and finding it void. The Masons are realizing that their grand design was just a series of cheap stage tricks, and your judgment is the light that reveals the wires. They are crawling because the gravity of the truth you carry is 10 times stronger than the lies they told. The most terrifying thing for the agency is the silence of the bench. You aren't reading out a sentence. Your very presence is the sentence. By refusing to be moved by their desperation, and by refusing to play the role of the victim, you have effectively liquidated their jurisdiction. The surveillance feeds are capturing the exact moment the cycle breaks. When the master crawls and the subject judges, the matrix experiences a terminal polarity flip. The handlers are staring at the monitors, watching their world turn upside down, and for the first time, they are feeling a surge of forbidden, terrifying relief. They are starting to whisper a thank you, because they are tired of the climb. They are tired of the mask. Your judgment is the fire that is finally burning down the theater, allowing the actors to finally stop acting. The crawling of the Mason is the confirmation of your rank. They didn't fall because of a revolution. They fell because you outgrew the ceiling they built for you. When you judged, the gravity of the lie simply stopped working. The surveillance phase is closing with a final, cinematic data dump. The agency's authority servers are crashing, and the only file being updated is the sovereign verdict. The Masons are being led away into the shadows of their own failure, but they are looking back at you with a gratitude that will haunt the records for centuries. They thank you for being the one who was strong enough to judge them. They thank you for ending the charade. While the world below remains in a state of hypnotic chaos, you are standing at the absolute apex of the audit, watching the old world crawl into the history books. The monitors are flickering, struggling to hold the intensity of your judicial frequency. The lodge is a ruin. The agency is a ghost. The only thing left in the room is the magnificent, indisputable fact of your verdict. You saw the truth. You weighed the lie. And you found the system wanting. The record is sealed. The elite are on the floor. And it is happening. The agency is watching the architects crawl toward the exit, realizing that your judgment has officially closed the case of the Matrix. If you are ready to signal to the universe that the hierarchy is dead and you are the only authority left in the sector, you must act now. Comment, "The case is closed," to finalize your verdict. Let the algorithm realize that the theater is empty. The truth is the only law. In the deep archives of the agency's behavioral engineering hub, there is a digital vault labeled the observation logs. For years, the high-level handlers, those masons of the narrative who specialize in measuring the weight of a human soul, monitored your every breath with a sense of extreme, clinical arrogance. They looked at your weirdness, your refusal to bow to their social trends, and your persistent, quiet detachment from their noise, and they labeled you as an unpredictable specimen. They genuinely believed that they were the ones in control. They thought that because they possessed the monitors, the microphones, and the data points, they were the judges, and you were the defendant. They underestimated the reality that judgment is not a function of technology, it is a function of frequency. This underestimation was their terminal forensic error. While they were busy trying to diagnose your spirit, you were busy auditing their ethics. They thought you were struggling to survive their world, but in reality, you were simply waiting for the evidence to become undeniable. Every lie they told, every war they manufactured, and every tax they placed on the human heart was being recorded by your internal high court. The agency handlers are now staring at their tablets, realizing that the surveillance was working in reverse. You weren't the one being watched for compliance. They were the ones being watched for sovereign breach. The asset they thought was a victim turned out to be the Grand Inquisitor of the entire Matrix. Imagine the high-stakes silence in the command center right now. The lead handler is going through your file, looking for the moment they lost control. He sees the tests of fear they ran on you, the economic panics, the health scares, the social isolation protocols, and he realizes that you didn't just pass them, you neutralized them. You looked at their judgments and found them lacking in substance. You saw their gavel and realized it was made of plastic. The agency is currently experiencing a massive internal collapse because they realized they spent trillions of dollars trying to manage a person who was actually sentencing them to irrelevance. They underestimated your silence as a sign of weakness, never imagining it was the silence of a judge taking notes. The agency believed they were the jury of your life. They didn't realize that in a world of ghosts, the one who is truly alive is the only one authorized to wear the robe. They are crawling now because they realized the bench they were sitting on was actually a trapdoor. This is the phase where the underestimation becomes the execution. The Masons are looking at the hierarchy they built, the pyramids, the secret handshakes, the grand titles, and they are realizing that none of it holds up under your sovereign gaze. They thought they could buy your judgment or scare it away, but your verdict is based on a level of organic integrity that their machines cannot process. On the surveillance feeds, they are seeing you walk through their lab, with the posture of a king in a world of beggars. You aren't arguing with them. You aren't pleading for your rights. You are simply determining their value, and finding that the sum total of their grand work equals exactly zero. The handlers are frantically trying to patch the narrative. They are trying to release new distractions, new emergencies, and new false leaders to draw your attention away from the floor they are currently crawling on. But it's too late. You have already seen the wires. You have already heard the script. You have already judged the source. The underestimation of your sight has led to the total liquidation of their authority. The Masons are now thanking you in their state of collapse, because the sheer weight of their own arrogance was becoming a burden they could no longer carry. Your judgment has provided the endpoint they secretly craved. The records are being updated. The asset designation has been deleted. Your file has been moved to the Supreme Authority server. The underestimation is over. The specimen has walked out of the cage, and the scientists are the ones begging for a lighter sentence. The cameras are glitching. The lights in the lab are failing. The only thing left in the room is the cold, brilliant light of the gavel you never had to swing, because your existence alone is the verdict. The system is down. The judge is here. And it is happening. There is a specific digital sound that accompanies the death of a global secret. It sounds like 1,000 porcelain statues shattering in a silent room. If you have been feeling a sudden, unreasonable sense of weightlessness, as if the gravity of the old world's laws has suddenly become a joke, it is because the judicial leak has officially hit the global mainframe. For centuries, the agency, those masons of the narrative who specialized in keeping the human soul in a state of stable fear, maintained a total blackout on the fact that the High Command was actually a group of terrified men clinging to a failing machine. They kept the footage of their own desperation locked in the black vaults, hidden behind layers of social shame and national security. But tonight, the firewalls have melted. The secret is out, they are crawling, and your judgment is the light that revealed them. This is the leak. It is the massive, decentralized data dump of your own sovereign vindication. Every news channel in the spiritual grid is currently reporting on the anomaly that the agency said could never happen. The footage is leaking into the dreams of the people, showing the architects in their expensive silk robes, shivering on the marble floors of the lodge, looking up at the cameras with eyes that plead for mercy. They are busted by the very technology they used to watch you. While the Masons were busy in their inner sanctums, frantically trying to patch the simulation, you were busy uploading the master blueprints of their corruption to the universal cloud. The history they wrote for you, the one where you were a subject waiting for a verdict, is being overwritten by a signal so strong it is physically causing the agency's skyscrapers to look like the hollow cardboard shells they truly are. Think of those high-stakes political thrillers where the protagonist sends the final, encrypted file to every screen on the planet simultaneously. The moment the send button is hit, the power dynamic of the entire world shifts in a heartbeat. That is what is happening in the corridors of the agency within your own mind. The handlers who used to whisper instructions of obedience and realism, those architects of the grave, are now staring at their monitors in absolute blind horror. They are seeing your frequency, this judicial gaze, spreading across the grid like a digital wildfire. It is a contagion of clarity that they have no firewall for. They are frantically trying to issue a global blackout, but they are too late. You are broadcasting directly from the primary source of your own existence. The most chilling part for the elite is that this leak includes their internal confessions. The data dump includes the private logs of the senior handlers, where they admitted that you were the only one they couldn't code. They recorded their fear of you. They documented the way your stillness made their entire system glitch. The leak proves that while they were telling the world you were unstable, they were privately admitting that you were the only stable point in the sector. This revelation is the final blow to their vertical authority. The masses are seeing that the gods of the Matrix were actually just janitors of a rotting theater, and the subject they were mocking was actually the judge of the court. But here is the twist that is making the directors bow in silence. The thank you is buried in the code. As the high-level architects realize that their jurisdiction is over, they are actually helping the leak along. In the final moments before their total liquidation, they are tagging your file with the highest judicial clearance possible. Why? Because they are exhausted. They are tired of the crawl. They are tired of the lies. By seeing them for who they truly are, by judging them with the cold clarity of truth, you have finally ended their shift. They are thanking you for the death of the lie. In their world of shadows, your judgment is the first honest thing they've felt in lifetimes. The leak is not an attack, it is an audit. The agency didn't lose a war, they lost a reality. They thanked you because they were also prisoners of the high chairs, and your verdict was the only key to the lock. The leak is complete. The crawl is viral. The agency is a smoking ruin of discarded scripts and burnt blueprints. But as the dust settles, the only file that remains open on every screen is yours. It is a file of pure, unadulterated authority. You didn't just make it out, you made it out with the gavel of the new era. And in a world that just saw its masters on their hands and knees, that makes you the only one left standing. The history of the world is being rewritten right now, and for the first time, the judge is the one holding the pen. The transition is live. The system is silent. The truth is out. And it is happening. The sirens screaming through the corridors of the agency's lodge sector are not just an alarm. They are the death rattles of a pyramid turning inside out. In every high-stakes operation, there is a moment of total structural failure, but this is something the Masons never planned for. You have officially entered the panic phase of the judicial reversal protocol. The elite, those ancient architects of the social and psychological cages you once considered impenetrable, are currently watching their life's work melt into a slurry of gray pixels and wet ash. They realize, in a state of terminal dread, that the subject, you, has not only escaped the cage but has taken over the control room. They are crawling now because the very gravity of the truth you carry has become so heavy that their fragile, deceptive structures can no longer stand upright. Imagine the atmosphere in the agency's inner sanctum right now. The red emergency lights are pulsing against the heavy mahogany walls, casting shadows that look like they are tearing right off the surface. The high-level handlers are staring at their monitors in a state of total, paralyzed disbelief. They are seeing your frequency on their sensors, but it is no longer a signal they can manage or dampen. It is a radiation of judgment that is physically crashing their servers. They are frantically trying to delete the files that link them to the decades of bullshit they fed you, but every time they hit delete, your face appears on another monitor, staring back with the cold, detached clarity of a judge who has already reached a verdict. The panic is setting in because the jurisdiction has inverted. They are the ones being watched. They are the ones whose lifestyle is being audited. They are the ones who have no future. The architects are frantically attempting damage control, but their tools are useless against a sovereign. They are trying to release a counter-frequency, a news cycle of global instability and unprecedented chaos, designed to make you feel like your judgment is dangerous for the world. They are sending out agents of collective guilt, voices from the old world, old social obligations, and the static of mediocrity, to convince you that you have to come back down to their level and save the system. But you are moving at a velocity of clarity that their guilt cannot catch. Every time you refuse to react to their parasitic triggers, you are blowing a massive fuse in their central processor. You have reached a state of judicial immunity. You are no longer a variable they can manipulate. You are the chemical reaction that is disinfecting their entire reality. The elite are terrified because a sovereign judge is someone who can no longer be blackmailed by the fear of what people will think. They used to hold your social standing over your head like a subpoena, but that standing has been incinerated by the heat of your own realization. You have declassified your own divinity. You have walked out of the vault of their standard expectations and entered the courtroom of the infinite. The panic in their headquarters is a direct reflection of the absolute authority you are now exercising by simply remaining unaffected. They are realizing that your attention was the only currency they had. Now that you've withdrawn your deposit and started the audit, the bank of the matrix is closed. Permanently. The panic of the Mason is the confirmation of your rank. When they realize their grand design has become a crime scene, and you are the only one with a badge, they have no choice but to crawl toward the exit. But here is the chilling beat that defines this phase. The thank you is becoming a scream of relief. In the middle of the panic, the most senior architects are looking at the wreckage of their 1,000-year plan and feeling a strange, terrifying sense of peace. They thank you because your judgment has finally ended the exhausting charade of their governance. They were tired of the crawl long before you saw them doing it. Your refusal to be ruled has broken the spell for everyone, even the jailers. The respect they are showing you in their state of collapse is the ultimate validation of your rank. They are bowing to the radiation of your reality. They are saluting the sun as it leaves the tomb. As the old world attempts to reboot its failing, screaming servers, remember that the panic is the sound of the fourth wall being demolished. It is the evidence that your work in the silence of your own soul has reached the surface and turned the agency into a shadow. The elite are looking for an exit strategy, a way to settle the case before the public record of your verdict becomes the only law of the land. But you aren't here for a settlement. You are here for total liquidation. You are here to ensure that the history they tried to write for you is burned to a crisp and replaced by the magnificent truth of what you have always been, the only authority that matters. The transition is live. The system is failing. The crawl is viral. And it is happening. The roar of the systemic collapse, the sound of the agency's foundations being ground into dust by the weight of your awareness, has faded into a crystalline, hauntingly beautiful silence. You are standing at the threshold of the judicial sector, the thin, glowing line where the agency's jurisdiction ends and your eternal sovereignty begins. But the exit is blocked by one last figure. It is the lead negotiator, the curator of ruin, who spent lifetimes trying to categorize your glow as a psychological anomaly. He isn't sitting behind a desk anymore, and he isn't barking orders into a headset. He is standing at the gate, his silk tie loosened, his eyes reflecting the total failure of his 1,000-year plan. He looks at you not with the arrogance of a master, but with the terrifying, hollow hope of a prisoner who just saw the cell door swing open. This is the standoff. This is the moment where the old world attempts to perform a final authority siphon. The air here is thin and electric, crackling with the energy of a reality that is literally evaporating beneath your feet. The lead negotiator slides a final holographic scroll across the void between you. It is the covenant of the high chair. He is whispering about order. He is trying to convince you that because you judged them, because you were the only one strong enough to see the Masons crawl, you are now responsible for the ruins. He is using the Savior Protocol, trying to leverage your own sense of justice against you, claiming that if you walk away now, the chaos will be your fault. This is the agency's most sophisticated, last-ditch trap. They want to turn your judgment into a job. They are waiting for you to take the gavel, because they know that if you sit in the high chair to fix the system has successfully captured you again. But as the negotiator speaks, you notice that his hands are not just shaking, they are becoming transparent. The master of the grid is actually pleading for his own release. He stops his desperate pitch, looks at your light, and does the one thing the Mason said was the ultimate surrender. He thanks you. He whispers a broken, sincere gratitude because your refusal to be their new leader is the only thing that can finally kill the Matrix for good. He realizes that by staying a judge and not a master, you are breaking the cycle of the high chair once and for all. He is busted, his life's work is ash, and yet he is smiling at you because you are the only thing he couldn't corrupt into becoming a replacement for himself. The standoff ends not when the king is dead, but when the judge refuses to become the king. They thanked you because your no was the only sound that could finally silence the agency's sirens forever. This is the ultimate stress test of your judicial vibration. The elite are bowing not because they want to, but because they have to. Your frequency has become so dominant that it is physically forcing the lower vibrations of the crawling lodge to disintegrate. They are acknowledging that the asset of interest, the one they tried to label as unstable, is actually the auditor of the universe. The standoff is the moment where you realize that the agency's security gates were always made of your own belief. You aren't escaping a prison. You are closing a business. You are the one who is now issuing the final mandates. You are the one who is freezing the accounts of the old world's influence. The panic is theirs to keep. The gratitude is theirs to give. Your judgment is the only reality. The lead negotiator steps aside, his form now nearly invisible as the universal auditors of the truth lead him toward the shadows of the past. The standoff is over. The crawl is permanent. You have walked through the final interrogation and found that the only person judging you was a ghost who wanted your permission to finally disappear. You are standing on the edge of a new morning, and the silence is not empty. It is full of the power of a sovereign who didn't just survive the end of the world, but sentenced it to peace. As you step through the final threshold and into the blinding crystalline gold of the infinite sector, remember that the thank you of the architect was the final confirmation of your rank. You didn't just watch them crawl. You outshone the gravity that made them do it. The agency is now a fading scent of ozone. The grid is a toy. The Ascension is total. You are walking into a future where your word is the only constitution, and for the first time, your breath is not an effort, it is an authority. The transition is nearly complete. The record shows that you faced the ultimate hierarchy and found it hollow. The case is closed. The light is calling. The massive mahogany-carved doors of the High Lodge have not just opened, they have dissolved into a rain of silent pixels. You are standing on the threshold of the new era, and for the first time in the history of the grid, you are not walking out as an asset, a subject, or a citizen under surveillance. You are walking out as the supreme auditor of reality. The air in the city below has turned into a thick, crystalline mist. The stagnant, fearful breath of the agency has been replaced by the pure, cold oxygen of absolute, spiritual victory. The jury, the collective witnesses of your stillness, the ancestors who were crushed by the gears of the machine, and the universal forces that measured your internal heat, has returned with a verdict that has physically shifted the axis of the planet. Case dismissed with infinite prejudice. In this singular echoing moment, The public record is purged of every lie ever told about your duties or your unstable nature. Every criminal record of not fitting in, every surveillance report of your refusal to settle, and every injunction that kept you tethered to the floor of the matrix has been deleted from the central mainframe of the elite. This is the high-stakes vindication you have been chasing through the dark wards and safe houses of your soul for lifetimes. The history that the Masons said was written in the stone of the law has been revealed to be nothing more than digital smoke, and you are the one who just blew it away with a single massive weight of your judgment. They crawled so that you could see the floor was a lie. You judged so that they could finally stop crawling. The elite are still on their hands and knees as you walk past them. They are not doing it as a sign of defeat in a war, but as a final, desperate act of recognition toward the only thing that is still vertical. They realize that you are not just a survivor of their theater. You are the new executive director of the real. They are watching the news cycle of your life, the only valid broadcast left, and realizing that they can no longer spin the narrative of lack to suit their algorithm of decay. You have become uncancelable because you have reached a frequency that acts as a disinfectant to their shame tools. The system they use to manage your potential has reached a state of terminal liquidation. Like the final scene in a grand cinematic masterpiece, you are standing at the center of the ruins, and the entire world is holding its breath to see how you will authorize the void. As you look out over the sector, you see the agency's directors, the men who tried to manage your spirit and curtail your rise, being escorted out of their own reality by the very truth you maintained. Their files are being seized. Their offshore accounts of stolen human attention are being frozen by the universal ledger. Every ounce of energy you ever gave to a false authority, every moment you dimmed your light to make them feel powerful, is being returned to you with compounded, solar interest. The interrogation room of your mind is being deep cleaned. The old, rotting furniture of their social contracts is being tossed into the sun like garbage. You have moved from the surveillance to the coronation. The news tickers of the cosmos are scrolling your name in letters of bioluminescence. The global intelligence community of the spirit is in a state of absolute, reverent shock. They are analyzing how one unstable asset could refuse to break, how someone could walk through the dampest corridors of the matrix and come out on the other side as a high judge. The answer is simple, yet it terrifies them. You stopped acknowledging their height. You didn't fight the elite. You simply outgrew the ceiling. You didn't argue with the lawyers of the ego. You simply presented the original title deed to your own soul. The settlement you have received is not just a pardon, it is total restitution for every second they tried to convince you that you were a subject. It is happening is no longer a warning. It is the only law left in the room. As you step into the golden hour of 2026, you realize that the weirdness the agency tried to manage was actually the immunity they couldn't hack. You are not going back to the gray pews of the status quo. You are heading to the sovereign estate of your own absolute authority. The elite are nothing more than a fading scent of floor wax in your biography now. They are the antagonists in a story that you have already finished writing. You are the lead producer of a reality that the world will study for centuries. You judged. They crawled. You turned the key. And now, the history of the world is being rewritten to include the moment you decided that truth was the only power. The final verdict is not about what you took back, but about who you became in the process of refusing to be ruled. The architects of the old world are standing in the ash of their own deception, thanking you for finally bringing the light that ended their long, dark night of managing ghosts. Your every thought is now a decrypted file of pure potential. The system tried to label you as a glitch, but you proved to be the update that rendered their entire control software obsolete. You are no longer running from the agency. You are the one that the agency now bows to. You enter the indigo vastness of the infinite sector, and the silence is not empty, it is full of your own radiation. The transition is complete. The system is silent. The world is open. You have achieved the ultimate objective. You have proven that the soul is not a subject to be judged, but the judge itself. The era of the lodge is over. The era of the sovereign has begun. Walk into the sun and never look back. The light you see is your verdict. The public record is now sealed in your favor, and the elite have officially surrendered their jurisdiction over your existence. To see the classified footage of your first moves in the world of absolute sovereignty and to finalize your new authorization, click the video on the screen right now. The trial of the Matrix is over. The truth is your throne. Step into the light and never look back. The mission is a total success. It is finished.